Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of a new Trekkie. My 5-year mission to search out Star Trek media, to seek out our fans and merchandise, to boldly go where no fan has gone before.
So, greetings and salutations. Time to do another clipless review talking about Star Trek Beyond. And truth be told, when it comes to the Kelvin film franchises, this film is actually, I'm going to say it, I really enjoyed this film. I actually honestly do. But before we get into talking about what I like and all that, we're going to go ahead and talk about the technical side and all that stuff. So, let's get ready to talking about Star Trek Beyond. So this film was directed by Justin Lin and written by Simon Pegg and Doug Jung. It was also produced by J.J. Abrams and Robert Orci. J.J. Abrams did not return for this film. He was busy doing other stuff. So, say the cast includes for this room includes Chris Pine as James T. Kirk, Zachary Quinto as Commander Spock, Carl Urban as Leonard McCoy, Zoe Saldana as Lieutenant Uhura, Sam Pegg as Commander Montgomery Scott, John Cho as Hikura Zulu, Anton Yelchin as Pavel Shakov, Idris Elba as Captain Balthasar Edison / Crawl, Sophia Botella as Jayla. So, sadly, unfortunately, during the time of when the film was going through development, actor Leonard Nimoy had passed away, and before the film had came out, and actor Anton Yelchin had also passed away. So the film was dedicated to both of them. And the film was also nominated at the 89th Academy Awards for Best Makeup and Hairstyling, but it ended up losing to the Suicide Squad. So, what was the story about for Star Trek Beyond? So, a surprise attack in outer space from forces the Enterprise to crash land on a mysterious world. The assault came from Krull, a lizard-like dictator who derives his energy by sucking the life out of his victim. And then Red Scroll 1, it was an artifact that was, shown off at the beginning of the film as a peace treaty option and all that. And, yeah. And the rest of the crew is, left stranded on this planet and try to figure out how to get off and also stop Crawl and figure out who he once was. And I gotta say, I really like this one, and honestly, this film has some ideas from, say, the original Trek films, say the fact this Kirk is celebrating his birthday, sort of say Kirk did in Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, but this time he's saying yeah, I'm 1 year older than how my dad was when he passed away at being captain, because it's been 5 years into their travels on the Enterprise. And, so Kirk has had a bit of opportunities to be captain and all that. So characters have been fully formed in that this time they have seemed to be able to have like, say, the personalities that we would normally see in, like, say, the original Trek show. So that's pretty awesome, honestly. And yeah, I gotta say that, like, the effects and the makeup for this film are truly what make this film work for me and all of that. Because, like, if you, like, say, the one thing I really like about the original Star Trek show, in honesty, is I like the fact, like, say, certain, like, say, episodes are, like, say, a monster of or alien of the week. I like that, in fact. Or sometimes they go to new worlds to talk about, like, say, hey, here's this alien, or here's that alien, or, you know, discussing ideals between different species and all that. I actually think that's really cool, honestly. And yeah, I actually kind of always like those kind of things that happen in those certain episodes. And in this episode, yeah, we have, like, say, different ideologies between Krall and the Federation. It's later revealed that Krall was actually Edison Balthazar, who was part of the Federation, but he started to become disillusioned, and the fact that, like, say, hey, look, the Federation is starting to work with enemies like the Romulans and to try to better society and all that. And yeah, it's, I don't really, I mean, sometimes I'd still say I'm a bit confused how they, the transformations and all that, like, how, okay, basically, like, how they go from humanoid individuals to suddenly being, like, lizard man, the transformations. But eventually, we see more of, like, like, him turn back to human once they get on the SS, like, Yorktown, which is, like, say, compared to the other films, it's not a starship, it is a space station and all that, which has giant communities and other things. And this time in the film, we get that Sulu actually is married. He has a husband and all that, so that's actually pretty cool. I mean, it's also sort of a nod to George, the guy who is, a gay man of the, the community. So, I also kind of think, the relationship between Spock and Uhura is, at this point, fully developed, and the fact, that they are exchanging gifts, like, heck, they end up saving each other at times, which is pretty cool. One thing that happens is the destruction of the Enterprise. And honestly, visually, it's actually great to look at. The effects for this film truly are standing out, in honesty. And that's when also the soundtrack. I mean, a lot of things in this film, it makes you want to come back to watch it. And the fact that the film has a tone of the original shows, and its humor, it's mostly just, like, a lot of things that make it come back, especially for me. I actually really enjoyed this film. Like, say, the makeup, especially for Krall or Jayla. I'm sorry. I really enjoyed this film. I'm sorry. And honestly, I feel like, say, this was the film that should have been, well, I kind of feel like they needed this film as a third, because, well, mostly because, like, say, if you had this the second film, you would have had to explain, okay, how did Kirk become from, like, say, this uptight, like, playboy guy to suddenly being this great captain? Yeah, you would have needed to have explained that. So I guess it was important to have Star Trek Into Darkness happening, even though some fans don't particularly care for it. And yeah, it's pretty cool in the fact that Justin Lin, who was director of some of the Fast and Furious films, directed this film. Well, I mean, he is a bit of a Trekkie too, so that's pretty awesome. And yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I'm sorry. I just think this is just a fun movie. Unfortunately, this film, when it came out, it was sandwiched between other blockbusters. So, it didn't really do as well as other film as I was really expecting. So there hasn't been really any development on a fourth Star Trek film involving this crew. Perhaps maybe one day we'll get a revival film franchise for the next generation crew involving new actors. I mean, heck, trying to think, Patrick Stewart's probably old enough to be able to play a. Well, I mean, he's doing Picard currently, so maybe he'd be old enough to be able to be a, mentor to, or an alternate version of Picard and having a young actor play him. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But, honestly, I could say I enjoy Star Trek Beyond. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it's just, I just enjoyed this film. The makeup, the creature effects, and I just think it's like a fun Star Trek film. Keep in mind, when I say, and I did say, a fun Star Trek film. I'm gonna say, I would watch this film as much as I would say Star Trek: The Journey Home, The Wrath of Khan, and yeah, I gotta say these three films I really enjoy. I really enjoyed the the Bad Robot Star Trek films. They're really a lot of fun, also. But what do you guys think of Star Trek Beyond? Put your thoughts in comments down below. Let me know, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll most definitely see you next time.